What's up everyone? I'm Tim and this is my channel 40 Times Around, where we talk about everything related to motorcycles, camping, travel, and adventure. And it's time for another monthly Q&A. Stick around. Okay, so like I said, it's time for another monthly Q&A, and I'm a little bit behind on this one. I've been traveling. I was out visiting with family for a while. I meant to get it done while I was out there. I know some of you have been waiting on answers for a little while. But anyways, here it is, the monthly Q&A for September. And the first question comes from Ciro Coelho. He said, awesome videos, thank you. Why did you choose an R1200GS over the GSA? And I did debate on this a little bit when I was buying my motorcycle, but I did the math and I figured out exactly what it would cost to make the GS the equivalent of the GSA. And when it boiled down, I don't remember the exact math, it was about $1,500 for an extra 2 gallons of gas, so it really didn't pay, in my opinion, to get the GSA. Not to mention it's a lot bigger, and I do take my bike off-road. I know there are guys with GSAs that are probably doing more gnarly stuff than I do, but I wanted to at least be somewhat reasonable. I know a 1200 GS is already pretty big for off-road. The GSA just seemed like overkill to me, at least. I know not everybody would agree with that. Okay, the next one from Biker for Life. He said, what sunglass brands do you recommend to wear in a full face helmet? That's a great question. And to be honest with you, I'm usually wearing cheap knockoff sunglasses. What you need to look for is not necessarily the sunglasses, although certain ones work better than others, but the helmet itself. A lot of helmets will have a channel for glasses. You want to make sure you're buying a helmet that has that. Otherwise, you're going to have a tough time getting sunglasses in. But I typically wear just the sport style because, I don't know if you could see that. This isn't too thick. It's kind of tapered, so when I do put this inside of a helmet, it just kind of slides right in pretty easy. And it's thin too, so it doesn't give me a headache. Okay, the next one is from Bill LV855. And he said, Tim, would you be willing to share the significance of the Bandaid on your bike? Yes. So for those of you that don't know, there's a Bandaid on the side of my motorcycle. And all that really is it's covering up a scratch. I just kind of thought it was funny. So I actually have a 3-pack of them. I have another scratch. I've been meaning to get another Bandaid sticker on one of those. It was just kind of a funny thing, to be honest with you. There's no real deep meaning behind it. Okay, and the next one from John Weymouth. That has to be, okay, so this one was on my updated kitchen setup video. And he said, that has to be the most compact kitchen setup I've ever seen. Great job. I try my best to live and eat clean as possible, and have recently changed out all my water bottles BPA free, but even where I bought them, they couldn't tell what that is. Can you tell me what BPA and BPS free really is? Thanks. So, this was not something I was 100% clear on, so I actually had to go and do a little research. There's some debate on this, and I was not actually aware of that until I kind of got on Google and started looking at this. So on scientificamerican.com, they said BPA is the starting material for making polycarbonate plastics. Any leftover BPA that is not consumed in the reaction used to make a plastic container can leach into its contents. In other words, the water or liquid that you're holding in the BPA. From there, it can enter the body. So BPS was a favored replacement because it was thought to be more resistant to leaching. Leaching meaning the chemicals are basically bleeding out of the rubber, the silicone, into whatever food or liquid you have inside of it. So if people consume less of the chemical, the idea went, it would not cause any or minimal harm. So that was the theory on BPS versus BPA. However, on NPR.org, they said, a 2-year government study of rats found that even high doses of the plastic additive produced only minimal effects, and that these effects could have occurred by chance. In other words, they're kind of saying this might be a slight overreaction. And anyways, if you do want more information on it, NPR goes on from there to explain a little more about how neither one is necessarily better or worse than the other. They're probably not actually all that bad for you. This is not my opinion. I know a lot of people are pretty anti-BPA. That's just what I found on Google anyway. I would encourage anybody who's worried about BPA and BPS to go ahead and research for yourself. If you do find anything else out, let me know in the comments below, because I'm kind of curious about this too. This is really not my area of expertise though. Okay, the next question comes from Russell Peterson. He said, and this was the video about what I pack on a long motorcycle trip. And he said, I assume the tool roll had a tire repair kit and air pump in it. Or maybe that stuff is under the seat. Wait, no duct tape. Okay, so to answer the first part of that question, yes, my air pump and all of my tire repair stuff, that's all in my tool roll. I didn't open that up because I actually have a video detailing everything inside my tool roll. Matter of fact, that's right here. So I didn't want to go through and take all of that time up again to show you what's in there, since I had already covered that. So all my tire repair stuff in the tool roll. And as far as duct tape, that is also inside my tool roll. Okay, from Tommy Reynolds. Great video, Tim. I was wondering, do you leave things other than clothes, food, wet tent, tarp, cameras, etc. packed and ready to go in your saddlebags for the next trip? Or do you unpack everything until getting ready to leave on your next adventure? This is a great question. And so most of it I unpack. I have a shelf that I keep everything on. It's nice and organized that way. The reason I don't keep it in the side cases is because I want to air everything out. So I unpack everything anyway. After I get home from a camping trip, I let it air out for about a day, and then I pack it a little more loosely than how it would be packed on the motorcycle. This way, everything's not so tightly compressed. There's a lot of reasons behind this, and I'm actually going to be getting into that in a future video where I talk about basically how to take care of your camping equipment and how to make it last a little longer. Part of that is proper storage, and that would mean not packing things or leaving things stored tightly compressed. So that is the answer to your question is no, I don't leave it in the motorcycle. It is tempting though, because I have so much stuff with me on a normal trip. From Rimu Altone. He said, smaller adventure-style bikes are less reliable than big ones. What is this claim based on? My understanding has been that BMW or KTM or Triumph are nowhere near the Japanese manufacturers, Suzuki, Yamaha, Honda, Kawasaki, in terms of quality and reliability. I'm quite sure this applies across their size ranges from big to small. And this was on the video about big bike versus small bike. And this is, as I mentioned in that video, that whole video is really just an opinion. It's just what works for me. It's not going to apply to everybody. It's based on my own personal experience, which is limited. But I have had Kawasaki's, I've had Hondas, I've had all different brands of motorcycles. I've ridden all kinds of Harleys. I've ridden big bikes, small bikes. Everything I said in that video was based only on my own experience, not every possible scenario, because there's just no way to really find any statistics on that. So it's from my experience. I have found that my BMW is far more reliable than my Kawasaki was. That's just for me. And that's considering that I've maintained them the same, I rode them the same. Everything was the same except the brand. So that's my opinion on that. Like I said, it's not based on fact, as I said in that video. Okay, from Toby. He said, the packing list checks out, but why would you want 3 pieces of hard luggage on the bike to carry the ideal set around? Less weight is more fun, is it not? And yes, he's absolutely right. Less weight is usually more fun on a motorcycle. The extra case is mostly for my camera equipment. It's offsetting all of the added bulk of my camera setup to make these videos. If I wasn't doing that, I definitely wouldn't have that top case. I'd have the duffel bag, 2 side cases, and that would be more than enough. Believe it or not, the camera equipment adds quite a bit of bulk. So that's why I have 3 cases, but if you can get away with not using a top case, I would highly recommend that. So that's why I have the top case on my bike. Okay, from Jeff Nabors. All of the videos I have seen are top tier. Thank you for that, I appreciate it. Great info. Okay, don't ride with a new helmet, boots, clothes, so how do I break in the stuff that I don't wear if I don't wear it on a ride? How do I know it will take the distance? Wear the new and take an Old Faithful with me. So what he's referring to here is, I did a video, I believe this was on long distance riding tips or endurance riding tips, one of those. And what I recommended was that if you were going to do an iron butt ride, meaning 1,000 miles in 24 hours or less, or one of those really big mileage days, is that you don't take new gear with you. You don't take a new helmet, you don't take a new jacket, because it's going to be stiff, it's not going to be broken in, so it's not going to be comfortable, but also it hasn't had a chance to really prove itself yet. So what I recommend is that you take those newer pieces of gear on shorter trips locally. You'll see if you put on a brand new helmet and go ride around for an hour, you're going to find that there's hot spots, you know, that all the material is just a lot tighter than it's going to be before it's broken in. So it's not that you can never go riding with new gear, it's that you should just do it on a smaller trip and give yourself a chance and the gear a chance to kind of get acclimated and get situated. Okay, next one is from R.E.L. Mayer. Is cruise control a must for me when going long distance? I'm having pains just riding 3 to 4 hours a day, so is it going to be necessary for me? I'll be honest with you, I consider cruise control a mandatory for a touring motorcycle. I'm a little spoiled though. You could go with a cramp buster, which is basically one of those little, it wraps around the throttle and there's a little curved piece, so you can rest your wrist on it and your fingers are loose, so you're basically twisting the throttle with your wrist. You don't have to tightly grip the throttle the whole time you're on the bike. I have issues in this shoulder actually from my first big motorcycle trip. I did not have cruise control, and so it was just 16-hour days for months, and you know, I put a lot of miles on a bike in a day, so I was sitting on the bike a lot, constantly twisting, never giving this shoulder a break, and it's done some damage to my rotator cuff, so it's hard for me to hold this up much higher than this actually. And that is directly because I didn't have cruise control or some kind of throttle lock or something to give this hand a rest. If you're getting pains after just a few hours on the bike, I would strongly recommend getting cruise control or a throttle lock. I know a lot of guys would advise you against a throttle lock, but they're safe if used correctly, in my opinion at least. I'm sure some people will disagree with me on that. So yeah, I would recommend that if you're looking at buying a motorcycle, get one with cruise control. If you already have a bike, you should consider getting a throttle lock, something to be able to just give your hand a rest. I know it can get pretty exhausting depending on how ergonomically correct your motorcycle is, if it's set up for long distance riding. You know, if you got ape hangers, you're probably really going to want some cruise control so you could put a hand down every once in a while and get the blood flowing back into your hands. So that's kind of my answer to that. Anyways, those are all the questions you guys had for me. I have been trying to catch up on the comments and kind of stay current with that. So I'm trying to answer your questions as they come in. If you do have any questions that you want me to answer in the next monthly Q&A, go ahead and leave them below this video and I will be sure to add them to the list. And that's about it. Those are all the questions you guys had, like I said. So I hope you guys got something out of this video. If you did, make sure to hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that little bell so you don't miss anything whenever I post something new. Anyways, thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video.